here. Did you want it or do you not? What are we doing? So if you want to come in here.
You got what you wanted.
If you want to come in here, come on in.
Come on in.
Come on
Water's
in.
warm, kids.
That's right.
Did you watch any of the baseball last night? I know it's a bachelorette night for you. Did you watch any of the baseball?
Indeed, it was a bachelorette night, and it is just a train wreck. I watched the final out, as a matter of fact.
Did you? You were up to see the final out.
The final out, the celebration, and now everything we know about it could not have been more 2020 if we drew it up in Hollywood, if they dreamt it up for a script, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
I watched the final out. I will say, however, that I was inundated because I had 2 years ago in fantasy. I called him Bob Snell. What's his real first name? Blake Snell, maybe.
Blake.
Yeah, I called him Bob Snell. I don't know a lot of baseball players, so in the Yahoo Fantasy, you get their first initial and their last name, so I make up first names for him.
Call him Bob.
So Bob Snell was our ace.
Blood cork.
He was our ace, and so I was like, I knew they had Bob on the hill, and then he's blank, he's unhittable. And you're going to pull him after 70 pitches? Outrageous. Horrible. Like, I don't care. This is dumb. It's like we were talking about yesterday. Dave Stewart, 1 year, 14 complete games. Let Bob go. Let Bob live on a day before First Friday. And no, they don't. And instead they bring in a guy who, my understanding, again, of it, not knowing baseball, but this is how little I watched and still how much I feel like I could have helped the Rays in this situation. They brought in a pitcher who had given up an earned run in 6 straight playoff appearances.
That's correct.
So you take out your ace, old Bobby, and you bring in this guy who's been a stiff. Why? Don't get it. Of course it backfires. Duh. And then the clip, though, it did remind me of the clip, which I did see in real time when Messina was like to Joe Torre, you get back in that, not now, you get back in
That's right.
That. Yeah, that's what, but Bob's got to flex like that.
Bob should have done that, yeah.
Yeah.
He had words that were said, but I don't know if they're directed right at the manager or more just into the air.
Into the air, and those just go right out.
Kevin Cash. Yeah. Look, it was. I'll say this: we have now crowned champions in baseball.
That's right.
We played an entire season and crowned a champion. We've crowned champions in basketball and the NHL. We've done it. Like some bumps along the way, but we've done it. College has its own separate issues. We'll talk about a little bit about some of that. And the NFL is delivering a season, so it's happening. I'm thankful for that. You touched on it. It was so 2020. Justin Turner pulled from the game in the 6th inning and said, "You're positive, son. Hit the bricks."
And then he
comes back out afterwards with no mask and did so. Apparently, we found out this morning, did so against MLB wishes. They told him to leave, and he refused to leave the field. And my guess is they were just like, forget it. Like, let's just be done with this. Let's get out of here. But that was crazy. You're exactly right. It was analytics run amok. Kevin Cash, the manager of the Rays, says afterwards, well, I didn't want Mookie Betts and Corey Seager to see him a third time. Well, why? They hadn't touched him the first 2.
It's in their head.
Why would we? What are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing? And for Kirkchin to lose it tells you that it was egregious because he's pretty mild-mannered on all fronts, but he lost it on that as well. So this is I am like a 10-year-old. This is my youth all over again. This is Lakers-Dodgers champions in '88. I mean, it's I'm 10 years old all over again, like a young schoolboy frolicking in the meadows.
Right.
Pure joy.
Pure joy.
I would also say that 11:40 end of games on the East Coast is a bit brutal. I'll add that as my get off my lawn moment. Yeah, that's a bit much. All right, let's get into the Ohio Business Machine preferred copy provider of your Cleveland Browns, your OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machines have all the X's and O's for your office. You can give them a call at 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. Baker Mayfield, your AFC Offensive Player of the Week. Good job at you, Six.
Great job, and did it in a winning effort. Baker Mayfield now 12-1 when his quarterback rating is 100 or more. And in this day, it most certainly was. And he's starting to be a Bengal killer, you could say. His 2 highest rated games of his career against the Bengals, he's just dominates that football team. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, it was good, and it's amazing what can happen in a week. I mean, all of the conversation last week going into this game, the amount of pressure that was on him. Now here we sit a week later in your AFC Offensive Player of the Week. Good job for him. Some practice report news for you guys in terms of who is not there. Myles Garrett out with an ankle, but that is precautionary and probably just a rest day for Myles at the level he's playing at. J.C. Treader, who commented about his knee, feeling that he liked the MRI and he was in good shape, he's out with the knee. Hoop's still out with the appendix. Jacob Phillips, Wyatt Teller as well. And, of course, we don't mention Greedy on these anymore because he's on IR.
Correct. Scores-wise, I would fully expect Miles and JC to play. Other than that, I think it's up in the air. But those two critical pieces will be out there for you on Sunday.
What is your, not scores, just kind of your gut feeling on Teller Phillips?
It doesn't seem when you have injuries like this with both of these guys, and in the case of Phillips, it's a recurrent one. It's the second time. When you have that bye, I think it's pretty normal to say, let's wait and see what happens. Let's give them the bye. Let's get that extra weekend, which is why I think came out right away and said that you are not going to be seeing Nick Chubb this week. Even if Nick Chubb was progressing very, very well, you would hold him out. It's kind of like Minnesota with Dalvin Cook. They had an opportunity to bring him back, but they said, let's just give him that extra. You basically get 2 weeks out of it, and you only miss one game. So I don't think anybody the week before bye is going to be rushed back for any reason. And you look at Philly. Philly is desperate to get a tight end out there. Dallas Goedert, they just activated and said he can practice. But they know they've got this game, then the bye week, and then week 10 he'll definitely be healthy. And they've got Ertz out, 6 weeks. So they're just going to wait. I just think that's kind of, when you're this close to it, that's, I think, more likely than not. Now, if somebody were to emerge back at practice, Thursday, Friday even for Teller, perhaps. But I fully expected the list. Garrett and Treader are going to play. The other three probably won't. And I think with Austin Hooper, it's could he? Sure. We know people have played with it in the past, but do you need to put him in a position that could expose him to further injury when you've got the bye week coming up and he can be 100%?
Yeah. I mean, that's this place where this bye week is. It comes nice because barring setbacks, and I hate to even say this out loud, so I'll knock on wood or wherever the heck this thing sitting at my desk so I can stand is, that barring some sort of injury on Sunday, by the time you play after the bye week, ought to be very healthy. And the healthiest you've been all year other than the season-ending injuries that we're dealing with. That most of these guys ought to be kind of on pace. When you talk about Chubb, you talk about Phillips, Teller, Hooper, certainly you would feel very good about playing after the bye week.
Of course. And you're at home. This is a game you can win. You have guys who have stepped up. Chris Hubbard is a veteran who's made many, many starts. He's already started 3 of your 7 games this year.
Sure.
So you're good with, you've got him there. Chief and Harrison Bryant looked excellent as your 2 tight ends. So you don't have that need to rush. And Jacob Phillips, while I think has shown real flashes in terms of his closing speed, tackling ability, even in coverage, he still is part of – we run a linebacker rotation. He's part of the rotation. So there's no – it's not like you need those guys. The guys you do need, J.C. Treader and Myles Garrett, I think you'll have. But that's who you need on Sunday. And, that's where we're at.
Speaking of returning, Kadarius Hodge comes back from return. We expected this, designated him for return. And then you have kind of hanging over all of this is this question of, okay, trade deadline next Tuesday, and we'll get to some of the action that's already happened in the NFL. How active can the Browns be on the trade in the trade deadline? Will there be a move for some help on the defensive front? Will you look at adding a receiver? Will you look at adding a best available? There's some talk that Stephon Gilmore is out there. From this morning, I heard some of that chatter that Stephon Gilmore could be out there, which would obviously be an enormous fish. Like, are any of those things in the offering, not just for this team, but around the league? I don't know what to think of this trade deadline. I think there's a lot of ways teams could go here.
I agree, and I think we've seen some movement already. I think Dunlop, especially for that price, would have been a nice get. Obviously, think about Ngakoue for the price there would have been a nice get. Everson Griffin, even for what he ended up going for. So I do think you're going to see teams that are serious about competing deep into the postseason make moves. I think you're going to see teams that are not do anything. There's no reason to take on extra cap because cap that's used this year, again, could be rolled over next year when next year you're going to have a reduced cap around the league. And so Jeremy Fowler reported on that earlier today that it's not just there will be a select group of buyers at this trade deadline, and I think a much larger group of sellers. So if you want to be a buyer, I think you will have an opportunity to do so. You're just going to have to evaluate the costs associated with doing business. If I'm the Browns, this is again me, these are not scores. If I'm the Browns, I'm looking to get another pass rusher to keep Olivier Vernon fresh, keep Claiborne fresh, but help Myles Garrett. Somebody else on the other side that can get home. And I realize pressures are very important, but you need somebody who's going to get home in some of these obvious passing situations.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's Fowler spot on with that. It's really who's going to be the buyers, but lots of sellers will be out there. The cap's going to go down significantly next year, so this is something that everybody's going to have to deal with all of a sudden. One other thing quickly out of the gates, fans of Big Ten football that season. Dealt a pretty big blow today with the fact that Wisconsin is shutting down things for 7 days. This weekend's game with Nebraska is canceled. They have 13 players testing positive, including their head coach. So those players are down 21 days, including both their starting quarterback and their backup. They have one scholarship quarterback left at Wisconsin, and the Big Ten did this to themselves. They waited way too long to play. They canceled when they didn't need to, and now they have no margin for error. And so they are – this is a big blow early on for the Big Ten. I hate to see it for the Hoff's alma mater because he has a quarterback who missed on one throw. They finally have a quarterback at Wisconsin, and now they can't play. So it's a tough blow for Big Ten football fans around there, and there are obviously a lot in the area. Lots to get to on the program today. Lincoln Kennedy will join us at the bottom of the hour. We go behind enemy lines. The great Bernie Kosar will join at 2:15. You'll hear from Baker Mayfield as well, his press conference from today, and you'll hear from your coach. In fact, that is coming up next. Are you a sports fan looking for a part-time weekend job? Get into the action. First Energy Stadium, home of your Cleveland Browns. Wes is now hiring for part-time event staff and security. You can apply online at weshiring.com. Coach Stefanski coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family-owned and operated since 1932. They've been in business for 87 years, keeping neighborhoods clean and green. The customers, employees, communities, they're all part of the family. You can check them out at rumpke.com to learn more. Here is your head coach, Kevin Stefanski, from the podium within the last hour. Let's have a listen.
Big challenge this week
Both down.
in our building versus the Las Vegas Raiders. A well-coached football team on offense, a ton of weapons. Obviously, the tight end, the receivers, the back, an extremely skilled quarterback that can make every throw. Defensively, this scheme, we know a little bit with Coach Gunther, and then they add Rod Marinelli to the group, and you see his influence on what they're doing. So it's a very physical front. It's a very disciplined, sound defense. They rotate coverages really throughout. They do a nice job. So we're going to have our work cut out for us, but we've got to have a great week of practice and get ready. So with that, I will take any questions.
Hey, Kevin, when you talk about holding out Miles for caution, does that mean you expect him to practice later in the week?
I would expect that, but we'll gather more information and know some more later in the day.
Okay, and then with Baker, the way he played Sunday, how much confidence do you think he can gain from a game like that?
Yeah, I hope all of our players gain confidence when you get a W in the fashion we did, obviously there for Baker and being as efficient as he was. You always hope to build off those type of things, but I don't think Baker lacks for confidence.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you about a couple of those throws that Baker had. You just alluded to, to the throw to Njoku and the one to Richard. Obviously, the one to Peoples-Jones was not an easy throw to make. Is that a mechanics thing or a confidence thing? Because it just seemed like Baker got hot, and when he threw it, everybody was catching it.
I'd say it's both, Darryl. I think when you're having success at the quarterback position, your mechanics have to be right to maintain accuracy. And then obviously confidence goes a long way for a trigger man. And again, I go back to that's the Baker I've seen at practice. I mean, he lets it rip because he trusts his guys.
And then when you see, Donovan Peoples-Jones step up, Njoku step up, Higgins stepping up, you as a play caller, losing Odell, we've talked about that, just how difficult that is for you guys, and you're going to have to overcome that. But you as a play caller, when you look across the board, watch that film, and see all those guys step up, does that put your mind at ease and give you the confidence that you can count on those players and believe in them?
Yeah, Darryl, I think you gain confidence through the week just watching those guys practice. You guys you mentioned, they get a ton of reps during the week. So I see them do it. I know they're working hard in the meeting rooms. I know their coaches are working hard with them to get them ready. So once Sunday rolls around, you feel really good about the plan based on the week that you've had.
Yeah, Coach, just wondering, is there anything to the notion that perhaps Baker Mayfield does go through his progressions a little bit differently, or, approaches the game in a different way when Odell's not out there and maybe spreads it around better or anything like that?
No.
Okay. So you basically just kind of reject the sort of the narrative that is going around everywhere right now that Baker is possibly better off without Odell in the field.
I do reject that, yes.
Hey, Kevin, on Monday you weren't ready to rule out Wyatt Teller. Is there still a chance he plays, or do you think after the bye is more likely?
Yeah, I still wouldn't rule him out today, Scott, but I'll know more, I think, tomorrow and Friday.
And we saw what happened with the Raiders last week, where they had one offensive lineman test positive, and then everybody had to leave the building. Has that made you change any way you do anything, guys in meetings, anything like that?
Well, them specifically didn't make us change anything, but we are making slight adjustments to how we meet in an effort to space out and make sure there's no chance of any close contacts in our building.
So the goal is not to have anybody, if one guy tests positive, there's not a chain reaction with guys having to go home?
Yeah, we don't want any blinking red on this guy.
You just said you guys are making changes to space.
Yeah, so today what we did was we kept our meetings virtual this morning for the practice squad so that the meeting rooms had a few less people in there, so the guys could spread out even more in those meeting rooms. And we're just going to make sure that we adjusted. We won't have an afternoon meeting. We'll do those meetings on the field so we can spread out. And then we'll add a few more minutes in the morning to have those meetings that we typically would have in the afternoon. So it's not huge changes, but just trying to be as diligent as we can and limit the exposures and limit the chances of close contacts.
Yeah, Coach, just a question about adjusting without Odell. I mean, you seems like it's going to be a work in progress, but will you have like multiple scenarios prepared, or will this kind of be adjusting on the fly for a little bit, or just wondering how you will approach it?
Yeah, Marla, I give a ton of credit to the offensive staff. Huddled up on Monday and made sure we had a plan moving forward. And we have depth at that position, and then we got to make sure we use that depth to highlight the strengths of each one of those guys.
Was that a marathon session?
No, I mean, we're pretty efficient when we meet, but I think the guys understand what we're trying to do. And again, it just goes back to who do you have available to you, and let's go highlight their strengths.
Yeah, Kevin, I think you talked a little bit about this on Monday, but is there any possibility that Chubb is back after the bye week, November 15th? Not saying definitively either way, but is that a possibility?
That's a possibility.
1 minute.
Yeah, just the notion of chemistry and the way that Baker and Richard kind of connect really well with each other. We've been seeing that here, for a long time. Is that something that maybe you almost had to see live in a game to realize the full impact of it, and that there really is sort of something special there?
Mary Kay, I tell you, I think you're right, but I also think it's just reps.
30.
You can't discount how many reps those guys have had together at practice. I think back to this summer or the spring when Austin Hooper went down and ran some routes for Baker. I mean, that's how you build a rapport there is just the sheer number of reps.
Just a little one. Do you
Stand by.
Replacing Peoples-Jones as the return specialist just because he'll get more reps on offense?
I don't think so, Tony. No.
You're up.
All right, there's Coach with his meeting with the media. There's some interesting information coming out of that in terms of Donovan Peoples-Jones going forward.
Sure.
Also, listen, we explained this off the top of the show yesterday. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Yes, you want Odell Beckham Jr. on the field. Period.
Of course.
So like that's just ridiculous. The notion of that. And so he puts that to bed with him. Not having it really in any way, shape, or form. This is a big one here, and we'll get into the Raiders behind enemy lines with Lincoln Kennedy shortly, and we will kind of take a little bit of a deeper dive on them in the second hour of the program. But this is a really big game for this team that sits at 5-2, that's doing everything that you want to do in terms of achieving your goals of making the playoffs. And one of the teams, feels very much like the Indy game to me, Bud. As we're here on this on a First Friday here, it feels very much like the Indy game where it almost feels like it's if you win, it almost feels like 2 wins.
Right, because this is a real, when you're looking at it, this is a real contender or competitor for potentially a wild card spot. Not to say the Browns, who are just 2 games behind, a game and a half, I guess, behind the Steelers, are out of the division race at all. Not insinuating that. But when you think about the teams that are most likely to be competing for wild card spots this year, you're talking about the Colts, who you've already beaten. You're talking about, another team in our division, first of all.
Yeah.
Right. And for example, if the playoffs were to start today, your wild card teams would be the Ravens, the Browns, and the Colts. Colts 4-2, you've already beat them head-to-head. That's huge. Then you're talking the next group, Dolphins 3-3, Raiders 3-3. You get the Raiders at home. You got the Colts at home. And honestly, then that's it. I mean, the next best team in the AFC is 2-4. Chargers, Broncos, Patriots, 2-4, 2-4, 2-4. Everybody else has 1 win or 0. I mean, this is an important game because if they go,
I think it's 3 teams for 1 spot, Z. Because I think a lot of these other teams are going to push in the chips. I think it's Raiders, Colts, us. If you figure that Baltimore and then throw Baltimore in that mix, I mean, I don't know. Chargers are kind of interesting with Herbert.
They're frisky.
But at 2-4, if you go to 6-2, and they're playing and they're at 2-4, that's a lot of ground to make up, man. That's a lot of ground to make up.
Yeah.
And Miami feels like they're done with Tua, like that that's more important than winning right now. It'd be one thing if Miami had Fitzmagic. They don't. They're going to Tua.
Correct. And right, they were 0-3, now 3-3. But you're right, and I think it's really Ravens, Browns, Colts, Raiders for 3 spots. So you feel pretty good.
Right.
4 teams, like you said, for 3 spots. Even boil it down more than that. You know, I would be shocked at this point if the Ravens aren't in the playoffs. So it's Browns, Colts,
Right.
Raiders for 2 spots. And then you need somebody. I don't see the Broncos do anything. You can't rule out the Patriots as much as you want to, but they are at 2-4 now. And they look
and they got
fractured.
problems.
They look fractured.
Yes.
In a significant and meaningful, consequential way.
I think the Chargers are, to use your word, it's a great one, are far friskier. I think they're far more interesting to watch at 2-4 than New England is. But it really is. And you already have one win over one of those teams in Indy, and you get one this week against Las Vegas, and then you got them both. So that you talk about how important this one is, that pretty much articulates it for you. We will go behind enemy lines, get to know this Raiders team from one of the best, Lincoln Kennedy, former Raider great, and he is currently the color analyst on the Raiders Radio Network. He will join us next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. If your game plan for this season includes buying or selling a home, Howard Hanna Real Estate Services has you covered. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. And with that, we head out on the Fifth Third money line and go behind enemy lines with one of the greats. Great player, great as a color analyst on the Raiders radio network, Compass Media. He is the great Lincoln Kennedy joining us on the program. Lincoln, thank you so much for the time, man. Welcome into the program. Let's dive right in. This one feels pretty big from our standpoint in terms of, Nathan and I were talking about this in the previous segment. There's like 3 or 4 teams for those last couple of spots in the AFC, and certainly these 2 teams are among them. From the Raiders' perspective, how important is this one?
Well, it's extremely important. More importantly, it's you want to get rid of that bad taste that they suffered last week at losing to Tampa Bay. So, like you said, for both teams, it's important. And you know how tiebreakers work in the AFC, so everything's at stake when these 2 guys are going to go at it.
When you look at this Raiders team, what's gone right so far, I think really starts on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback Derek Carr having a nice season, Waller and Jacobs and Ruggs and Aguilar playing well, Renfro. What have you seen from this offense? What would you say is kind of its identity?
The strength is that this is a time of possession style of offense. Gruden's always been that way, especially when I played for him. So he wants to run the ball, and he wants to allow the run to set up the pass. More importantly, the thing is that they've been able to score points. They need it because their defense is, let's face it, is not very good. They've got 7 new starters on the defensive side. They have problems containing the run and stopping the pass, as you guys have seen in game film. So this is a team that needs to score a lot of points just to be competitive. And thank goodness they've got an offense that can do it.
Yeah, they have. It's just one of 2 teams in the NFL who have given up 30 points every game this season. The other one, of course, being Dallas. On the offensive side of the ball, and a player that I just adore watching is Josh Jacobs. But he has not had the type of season, a ton of carries, but the yards per carry aren't there. And I won't lie to you, it's not like I'm watching every one of these games, typically watching ours. But I have seen him play a couple of times. He was great against New Orleans in the opener. The last 3 weeks, though, 3.2 yards a carry against Buffalo, 3.3 against Kansas City, and just 17 yards on 10 carries against Tampa Bay. Is that a product of just being in games where you have to throw it a lot, or are they not able to establish him the way that they wanted?
Well, it's a little combination of both. Most times, you talk about those last 3 games, Buffalo and most notably Tampa Bay had pretty good run-stopping defenses. I know it didn't seem like for Buffalo when they played Kansas City, they couldn't stop the run. But, coming into it, they were doing pretty good against the run. So defenses have something to do with it as well as opportunities. The thing is that there are times, because Gruden scripts his first 20 plays, there are times where he finds something in the passing game that Derek likes to go to because he's got the control with the check-with-me system that he can change things. He can change things on the fly. You've seen a lot of that over the time that Derek and Gruden have been together. But more times than not, it's just the fact that the opportunities haven't presented themselves, and sometimes they need to throw the ball to get back into football games.
Lincoln, when you look at Darren Waller last year, 1,146 yards, 3 touchdowns, already has matched his touchdown total. He has more targets than any other 2 players on the Raiders combined, more catches than any 2 other players on the Raiders combined. But it's hard not to notice, and again, haven't gotten to watch a ton of it myself, but 12.7 yards a catch last year, 8.6 this year. What are you seeing? Is it something schematic that is kind of causing that decrease in yards per catch for Waller, down 4 yards off of 12.7?
Yeah, more importantly, it's also the coverages that defenses are playing. You've got a lot of bracketed and double coverages that kind of takes them away. And because protection has been a little bit of an issue for this offensive line, mainly missing Trent Brown for a number of those games, the starting right tackle, Derek has had to get rid of the ball a lot quicker, and he had to come off of Waller, even plays designed for him. So if it wasn't a short flare out or something like that, an arrow route, Darren Waller was kind of hard to get downfield because he just didn't have the time, and defenses were taking him away.
Lincoln, there was your quarterback Derek Carr off an incredible start, 72% on the completion, 13-2 touchdown to interception, a rating of 112.8. For some of us outside, we wondered if Gruden was in love with him as a quarterback, and you point to the Mariota pickup, and seemed like he was always sniffing around with other quarterbacks. How important was it for Carr inside the organization to have this type of start, and how did they feel about him in Las Vegas?
Well, I think it was incredibly important for both parties. I mean, when Derek first moved there, he made a comment when he first moved to Las Vegas after transition, the move from Oakland. he had said one of the first things he saw in the paper were that the Raiders were looking at Tom Brady. And that was a little discouraging because here's the starting quarterback of a franchise, thinks he's got a little bit of job security, and now you're hearing all about these rumors. Same thing goes with Mariota. So Derek wanted to prove that he was capable. And John Gruden always knew that he was capable. The thing that Derek has, or the issue that I have had with Derek, and I've been extremely critical of him, is sometimes he overthinks it. Sometimes you just need to go out there and go with the play, and then you have to make the smart decision. Derek, because he's had the wherewithal with the check with me system, thinks that he can also he feels pressure to try to be creative. And there's been a couple times that he's done it this year, and it's actually worked out for the Raiders. So that trust has been enhanced a little bit more. But for the most part, Gruden and Derek have had a good relationship. And even coming into the season, Gruden said to people like me and others, this is Derek's team. He's supposed to lead us to the promised land. Now, with that being said, if the season turns out to be a total disaster by the quarterback position, because this is the last year of Derek's guaranteed money, then they might not commit to him for that new contract. They may not re-up to him. They might look to go somewhere else, maybe to Mariota. But right now, this is Derek Carr's team.
Lincoln, when we turn our attention to the defensive side of the ball here, you look over the last 4 games, Raiders 1-3 during that stretch. The big win at Kansas City, where they put up 40 themselves, but they've given up 36, 30, 32, and 45 in these 4 games. You mentioned the new starters, but what's been the biggest problem for this defense? What have they struggled to stop?
Lack of cohesiveness and struggle to stop the run, most notably. And many times struggle to stop the run. Last week was actually a little bit better outing between the tackles, but their perimeter run game run defense has left a lot to be desired. More importantly, because they've had inconsistencies in the secondary, they've really been hurting covering people. It's just, as I said earlier in the interview, this team, the defense had 7 new starters this year. These are either first-year players or first year with the team. And that doesn't necessarily build a cohesiveness that you can work off of. They've got a really young secondary with Jonathan Abram, who's only played basically a half game last year. This is his rookie season. You got Trayvon Mullen starting one corner. He had 1 full year. And then you've got Damon Arnett, who's now on IR with the COVID in the hand, but he's still a rookie. So a very, very young secondary that they're trying to figure out the way to make things happen. That's why I said, for this team, their greatest defense is going to be a strong offense. If they can maintain time of possession, and they score touchdowns, then they can put pressure on the offenses and not allow them to be, to make them somewhat one-dimensional, and that makes an advantage for the defense.
Who's been their best pass rushers up front so far this year?
It's probably Max Crosby, though Cleveland Farrell is playing a little bit better. Max Crosby has the most sacks. This is not a team that gets a lot of pressure, and that's part of the reason that they struggle, because even with the 4-man rush where they blitz, the secondary is so young, so the secondary gets exposed. 4-man rush just doesn't get there.
And what is the latest on Abram? I know that you guys had the COVID scares last week. Is he back in the mix?
I'm not sure if he had another positive test. I have not heard anything, but after you have that positive test, there's a number of tests that you like 5 consistent tests, I think, in the NFL protocol that you have to get negative, and I'm not sure where he's at. We should find out more today, but on the injury report, it just shows did not practice, non-injury related, if you know what I mean.
Bringing it back full circle to what Beau mentioned at the beginning, when you look at this AFC wild card chase, is this a game that in Las Vegas they're saying the Raiders have to have, to try to kind of get this team back on the winning track, losing 3 of the 4, but knowing that the Browns are a team that likely they would be in direct competition with for one of those spots?
I don't know if this team is mature enough or experienced enough to even think about, the words must win, especially this early in the season. But I know it's on the coaching staff's mind, and it's on people like us who have the mediums to be able to talk about it. We are saying that this is a must-win situation. A lot of things that have happened since the beginning of the season. When you talk about that sort of gauntlet schedule-wise that the Raiders looked at it,
sure.
If you would have said after week 6 you were going to be 3-3. Then you would probably be a little bit better off or feel a little bit better about yourself. However, Cleveland, then you've got the Chargers, then you've got the Broncos, who might be struggling but still are dangerous. This is not going to get any easier. Most people looking at the schedule think that it will get easier. I beg to differ. This is a must-win for the Raiders.
Lincoln, I'll get you out of here on this one, just a big picture one from the franchise standpoint. I understand with COVID it's also different from what it normally would have been, but How is the organization franchise been received in Las Vegas?
With open arms. It really has been. It really feels like a good home for the Raiders. The great thing about Vegas is that, when the Raiders were in Oakland, even when they were in L.A., you always had to share the amenities with someone in the area. But Oakland has been welcome in Vegas, and they're going to be happy there for a really long time.
That's good to hear. Very good to hear. And great to hear from you. Thank you so much for your time today, Lincoln.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, that is Lincoln Kennedy, former Raiders great. And a reminder, all guests who appear on CBD do so via the Fifth Third Moneyline, Fifth Third Bank, making Cleveland Browns Daily a Fifth Third better. You will hear from Baker Mayfield, his press conference coming up next. You listen to CBD on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Brilliant Electric Sign Company, Northeast Ohio's largest full-service sign company, serving their clients for over 91 years. Contact the experts at Brilliant Electric Sign to provide you state-of-the-art signage solutions. It's going to grow your business. Visit them at brilliantsign.com. Here's your quarterback, Baker Mayfield, meeting with the media from within the hour.
Thanks, Baker. Hey, this is the first time we've spoken to you
Both down.
that Odell was out for the season. Just how tough a blow is that for the offense and the team in general?
Yeah, it sucks. You never want to lose guys. You especially don't want to lose them for that long. I just know how much he cares about the game, how much he cares about trying to win. So, I mean, it sucks for us, but, you hurt even more just for him. Yeah, no fun, but we got to be able to have guys step up and try and fill that void. Like Kevin said, it's not going to be a one-man job. It's going to take multiple people to fill that.
So because of the way you played last week when he went out and maybe some of the connection problems you guys might have had last year, there's this theory kicking around that, Baker might be better off without Odell. Why is that a flawed argument?
Well, one, I think it's just completely insensitive to a guy that just tore his ACL. So I'm not even going to comment on it. You never want to lose guys, and that's where I'm going to leave that one.
Baker, first of all, how did it feel to win AFC Offensive Player of the Week, after you had a little bit of a rough and I think maybe emotional week? So to come up with that kind of award after that kind of a game, how did that feel for you?
I've always thought, individual accolades are a representation of the team and especially the offense. So that one goes for everybody making the big plays and what was necessary for us to win.
And then just also, do you guys feel like you, if it doesn't turn out that you can go find another receiver anywhere, with all the guys that you've been working with, do you feel like you have everything that you need to get the job done the way that you want to?
Yeah, like I said, you don't want to lose guys. That's not fun. But we believe in the guys that we have. That's why they're here. So we're going to expect them to step up and do what they're capable of. Nothing more, nothing less. Just to go out there and do their job.
It seems like Odell is such a focal point of defenses. How do you think they will change without him on the field?
Yeah, you see a lot of cloud coverage, them rolling a safety over the top to his side. So we just have to be able to adjust and adapt. Just like a game plan, you might have something planned and then they come out and show a different look. You got to be able to adjust on the fly. So we'll see what happens. But until then, I can't predict it.
Hey, Baker, whether it's, going all the way back to your rookie training camp or prior games and prior systems, what is the value to you of just prior reps with guys like Higgins and Njoku when they get called upon and you have that trust in those guys?
Yeah, there's something for chemistry. You build off reps and experience, seeing the body language in and out of routes. And obviously, when you get more reps, you talk through certain things with guys. So, it might not have been a good play, but you can always learn from it. And so there's just that experience that dates back, like you said, that I think is helping.
Now that you had a chance to look back at everything, I just was wondering, what did you think of the Higgins catch, and where does it kind of rank, especially in the moment?
Yeah.
For some of the plays that you guys have been able to make this year.
That one's definitely at the top of the list. The freeze frame picture of him fully extended, catching that, high pointing the ball. That's a special play. And that's one of those, like opportunity balls, just give the guys a chance. And he made an incredible play in one-on-one coverage. They wanted to bring blitz zero. So, had a chance to protect it up and throw the ball downfield. So good play call and good execution by Higgy.
And then, with him being a healthy scratch a couple times, earlier this season, and then, what he's been through here, kind of up and down with opportunities. How happy are you for him that he's been able to stick to it and that now he's going to be able to get the chance to kind of show he's capable of some of the things that he was able to do for you guys Sunday?
Yeah, obviously circumstances you never want it to happen as to why he's going in, but happy for Richard in the sense, he's been patient, he stuck to it, he's still been working, so now he's got a chance to go out and prove, himself right to everybody else.
Hey, Baker, I wanted to ask about Donovan Peoples-Jones. You having the confidence to go to him in such a critical situation, and then also just what have you seen from him that makes you feel like he's ready to maybe take that next step and assume some of that burden within this offensive system?
I think for me, it started when some of those guys came down to Austin to get routes, get reps and stuff like that. He's been locked in on terminology and learning the offense a lot quicker than most rookie receivers would be in terms of learning the pace of that. So, I mean, he's all about his work, all about his business. And I said it after the game. I missed him on a go ball shot on a third down where they lined up off sides. And I told him I was going to come back to him. And it just so happened to be that circumstance. So, I mean, I trust those guys no matter who it is and to be where they're supposed to be. And he made an incredible play.
And when you're hot like you got Sunday, you complete 21 straight passes. Would have been 22 if you didn't have to clock it. But are you a believer in momentum within a game? Can you feel yourself hot at any given moment?
Yeah, I mean, you can sense those moments when you're feeling it. You're putting the ball in the right place. You're going through your reads. You just, your field of vision slows down, and you're just executing well. But that's also for everybody else in the field doing a job for us to be able to do that. And so that's an offense clicking and everybody doing their job.
Yeah. Hey, Baker, you called the speculation out there that you might be better off as a quarterback without Odell and Sensitive. But you did play well as a rookie before the trade. You played incredibly well Sunday after the injury. Does that all that give you confidence you guys can still get to where you want to go offensively without Odell, even though he's such a dynamic playmaker?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's just awful to lose a guy like that. And, we believe we have a great team. And so that's why we're going to ask these guys to step in and multiple guys to try and fill that void. We still going to lean on this running game. We're still going to lean on this play action and trust these guys to make the one-on-one plays when they're there. Without him, there might not be as many one-on-one opportunities, but that means we just have to be more efficient in the zone coverages and things like that to make those plays.
Does not having him out there change your approach in any way? I mean, I know it's like you've said before, it's tempting when he's got one-on-one to give him a chance. You now may be more apt to go through progressions instead of taking some opportunities because of what he can do with the ball, which we've all seen.
Yeah, I would say not just because, we don't have him, but teams are going to play us differently, like we hit on earlier. So I think it's about, just understanding the looks we're getting and going through our offense based on the looks and just efficiently working through that.
Yeah, Baker, when you were talking about making adjustments, how do you feel this coaching staff and you and the quarterbacks, I mean, how is this process? I know it's early in the season kind of to know, but, do they allow you guys to make suggestions? Do you feel like you guys will be able to come up with a way to cope without Odell just as a group?
Yeah, I mean, this is a savvy group that we have here. We're going to do whatever it takes to win. And so however that comes, however we adapt and adjust, this is a group that's willing and able to adjust to basically anything in a year of uncertainty and a ton of adjustments. We're capable of doing that, even though it's not what you want. We just have to do it.
Hey, Baker, how much confidence do you gain from a game like Sunday?
I mean, to me, that's what we expect to do efficiency-wise and finding those, matchups and executing. We know there's going to be a lot more ups and downs in games, but that's what we dealt with. So we expect to be able to adjust and go. And I wouldn't necessarily say that just builds a ton of confidence. It's just to us, that's the expectation. That's why I had the comments at the Steelers game of how poorly we played. It reflects what we expect compared to what we produce.
And when you're watching film of the Raiders and they played Tom Brady and the Buccaneers last week, do you take anything away from Tom Brady, either not only against that defense, but just in general watching maybe the greatest of all time?
Yeah, I mean, there's always stuff to learn. I mean, there's some good film to watch. They've played Patriots, Saints, Bucks, obviously, Bills. I mean, they played some good teams. So they're a good defense. And, like you said, I think there's always stuff to learn from watching some of these guys go up against them.
Hi, Baker. I was talking to somebody who was in the stadium with you Sunday who said that you just were locked in. We all know what that looks like. Can you tell us what that feels like when you're locked in? What does that feel like? And what does that mean?
A 45 second.
One-track mind about the next play, the next series is always the most important, no matter what's going on. Like we had there's a lot of lead changes there, but it's all about
30
takes and having that focus for 4 quarters and 3 hours plus whatever it takes. So I'd say that's what it looks like.
And is that just sort of notable this year? I mean, did that actually feel different to you?
No, I would just say,
Stand by.
the confidence that we had to go out and win that game. It just so happened the ups and downs of the game, we just stayed focused and didn't flinch.
You're up.
All right, good stuff from your quarterback there. Nominations for the 2020 Helmets program are now being accepted. Zenith invites you to nominate Ohio high schools to receive $25,000 worth of new Zenith helmets. Visit promotions.clevelandbrowns.com to learn more. Coming up here at the top of the hour, we will go around the league. Some players on the move. Could the Browns be involved? We'll get into that coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. you're on. Looking to refinance or purchase a home at Union Home Mortgage, their promise is simple and straightforward. Your loan officer keeps you in the loop all the way to the end zone. Visit UnionHomeMortgage.com to get a mortgage you'll rave about. Union Home Mortgage, promises kept. Union Home Mortgage Corp, NMLS 2229, is an equal housing lender. As we go around the National Football League, it is the Houston Texans that were hit by the COVID bug this week, closed their facility due to positive tests from one of their players. The good news for them, though, it's a bye week. So this one should not have any impact on anything. By the time they get back, everything hopefully will be taken care of. I haven't seen anything else around the NFL. We talked about the college football stuff that's going on, but I haven't seen anything else on the NFL from a COVID standpoint of view.
No, which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good. And,
yeah,
and
very,
as you
very
said,
positive there.
Very fortunate they're on their bye week. But I feel like the NFL has gotten to the point now. Whoa, man down. I feel like the NFL has gotten to the point now where we've had some of these things, and it hasn't affected games.
Well, I was wondering if it was similar to what happened in what happened in Major League Baseball, where early on as baseball was getting out of the gate, you saw those huge swaths of COVID positive tests that were happening among those teams, and then it was like, okay, let's learn from this. What can we do going forward? And then it was a non-issue the rest of the season. I mean, baseball played 30 games.
Sure.
And I'm not acting like I won't pretend that I followed it every day. I mean, there's a lot going on that time of year, but I don't recall any big outbreaks after the first 15 games of the season.
No,
it seemed like they kind of figured out how to do it. And I wonder if the same thing will happen here in the NFL.
Well, yeah, and you heard Kevin Stefanski say that we have even adjusted our protocols, even though the Browns have been fortunate to not have an issue thus far, where nobody other than out on the field would ever be in close enough proximity. And out on the field, they talked about viral load. Nobody's around each other 15 consecutive minutes, inside of that space. So you feel pretty good about it. But they've changed, even as Kevin Stefanski said, the meeting protocols that they implement to try and make this happen, to try to prevent all this stuff.
Yeah, and the other good news from a football standpoint is the point you just made, that it is not football is not transferring the virus from team to team. It's not happening. If the virus is getting into teams, it's happening outside the facility.
Right.
It's happening outside of games. So that's really very positive. And go ahead.
I was just saying, you saw a guy, I want to say a practice squad corner in Carolina on video, partying at a club, dancing, cut. No tolerance. No tolerance. And if you're that far down the pecking, like, what are you thinking? This is your opportunity to get into the league. You got to lock it up for, now folks, it's November 1st on Sunday.
That's
you got to lock it up for 2 more months, guys. 2 more months.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's it. And it's gone very, very well. And we started the show talking about, the Major League Baseball delivering a World Series. The NBA and NHL have delivered champions, concluding their seasons. MLB started one and finished one, and the NFL's in a good spot to be able to do it as well. You mentioned November 1st. On Tuesday, obviously a huge day. The trade deadline is next Tuesday. And so do you think that'll be any news on that day? It'll be kind of a quiet news day next Tuesday. Nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
The NFL,
it's pretty crazy timing for the old trade deadline, to be honest.
Really is. So you have the NFL trade deadline, but you see a lot of teams are already in on this. The move today in our own division, the Cincinnati Bengals trading Carlos Dunlap to Seattle for center B.J. Finney and a 7th rounder. I'm just surprised at how little that was, because I think Dunlap can still be effective. I'm curious if they'll trade Geno Atkins as well. It's the first time that the Bengals have made an in-season trade since they traded Carson Palmer to the Raiders. That's how long it's been. And, of course, he wasn't even active, was he?
No, he was sitting out. That's when he said he was going to retire, right?
I'm going to retire.
Yeah.
And then they finally traded him. But the first time since then that they've made an in-season trade with a veteran.
It is, and what's interesting is the 2 teams that we're talking about that have made trades. Well, the Bengals have divested, but the Seahawks and Lions both looking to acquire pass rushing help. I think this stat's pretty fascinating. Myles Garrett has as many or more sacks, 9 this year, than 7 teams have altogether. This comes from More For You Cleveland on Twitter. The Seahawks, 9, they make a trade for a pass rusher, and the Lions, 8, they make a trade for a pass rusher. By the way, the Raiders, this week's opponent, 7 on the season. That's good news. Our quarterback has been quite tremendous when the pocket has been clean.
Yeah, this Raiders defense, as I mentioned earlier in the show, just one of two that has given up 30 points every week, the other being Dallas. And remember how well that went for us down in Big D. But I am very fascinated to see what this deadline looks like, and if who else will be dealt, will teams try with the knowledge that and Pat Kerwin talked about this yesterday, with the knowledge that the cap is going down. Will you more quickly identify if you're a team that has a chance or a team that does not? And will you do the benefit of the doubt in the negative sense rather than the positive? In other words, if you're a team like the Chargers and you know the cap is coming down, and let's say they lose this week to drop to 2-5, do you say, all right, let's drop some salary here? And I don't even know their situation. I don't know anything. I'm just using them as an example. Will there be less teams that hunt the 7th playoff spot, the 6th playoff spot, and then create an even more players being out there? I'm very interested to see how this goes in the next 5-6 days.
In fact, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think absolutely teams are going to say, let's fold up shop. Not to go with Baker's Rough Rider lyric, but stop, drop, fold them up shop. We're done. We're out. Let's go on to 2021. Let's move on because there is that limbo, I would say, of making a push to get into the playoffs when you probably aren't going to be able to go deep into the playoffs. Now, history would also tell you there are plenty of teams that have snuck in as the 6th seed. The Giants come to mind that end up running the table. There they go, Super Bowl champs. So you just want to get into the dance. But teams that don't feel like they are well positioned to get into the dance, I think are much more likely to pump the brakes earlier, start to look from a developmental standpoint, and divest themselves of big contracts to those who are the buyers. Like I said, I think ultimately you will have an environment in which there are more sellers than buyers.
Agree. Yes. I think there will be fewer teams that think they have a chance. And if they think, like if you're a team that thinks there's a 28% chance you make the postseason, you may say, you know what, not worth it.
Yep.
In years past. This year it might be, if you think you have a 40% chance to make the postseason, you may say, you know what, not worth it. The fact that cap is going down, the fact that you don't have fans to continue to add to your revenue in terms of ticket sales, and you don't know what that's going to look like or when that's going to be, to me, I think you're exactly right. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that want out and want to get the assets. And I also think it's part of what we've seen. And I mean, look, we were one of the first teams to do this. Let's get assets. Let's take a lot of shots at the draft. You've seen Miami do it. Jacksonville's going to do it. They're going to have a lot of shots. Jaguars and Dolphins in the next couple of drafts, you're going to see them about every other pick. It's going to feel like one of them is going up there to make a draft, and that's what they've done. They say, you know what? We're not winning it where we're at. We're not winning it all where we're at. And Jacksonville's in the AFC Championship game, guys. Think about that. And they said, we're not winning it where we're at. Let's get rid of it, and let's start over and make sure that we have the quarterback to build around. Whether they will or not, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be bad enough. That win against Indy may haunt them from week one, as I'm pretty sure the Jets are going to make sure they're 0-16.
Jeez, yeah, you're not lying. And that was when Minshew Mania was still running wild before he was sent asunder by Mr. Bishop on the weekly scores.
Go to hell, Minshew. Straight. That's right. Not all of the stories. Here's another NFL transaction news. Former Buckeye Eli Apple released by Carolina. He was one of those guys who just, former first rounder, all those corners that feel like they've delivered in the NFL for the Buckeyes. This is one who did not. I don't know. I think there's a little more to Eli than just the talent issue.
Seems
so
that
way. There's quite a bit there. There's some drama that follows him around, and he was good. I knew him in the recruiting process and in those early seasons at Ohio State, but haven't been around him in a long time since. But I don't think that would be a place where we would have any interest there. I think you feel pretty good about things, and hopefully there's some positive news with Greedy Williams in the next couple of weeks, and he can be reintroduced to the fray here. But I feel very good with where we are at corner with Johnson, Mitch, and obviously with Denzel.
Agreed, and that's a room that we thought would be a strength coming in. I think that ultimately it has been. There certainly have been some ups and downs, but we saw Denzel Ward, I think, turn in a tremendous performance last week. Money Mitch has been very solid for the majority of the year, and clearly once Kevin Johnson came back, that was a steadying force. And people are probably going to say, well, how can you say that? We just give 400 yards passing to Joe Burrow and the Bengals, but that it's a good passing attack. Damage was done in various parts of the field, and they were good. But I'll take our guys out there, more often than not. And I think that we're in a pretty good spot. I do think there's some things to clean up in terms of back end coverage. Having Ronnie Harrison out there all the time will help. Sendejo has been around a lot of big plays, and just, that's the difference between being around them and eliminating them. And so hopefully that's something that can happen over the second half of this season, and the linebackers hopefully will continue to get better in coverage as well. But a lot of it too also comes from up front. Miles, you can't be a one-man wrecking crew. You can't.
Nope, need some help up there. So going to be interesting next few days as the trade deadline looms on Tuesday. Always interesting when we get to talk to the great Bernie Kosar. He will join us coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Over something like football can be a problem, but if you're obsessing over gambling, that can be downright dangerous. So do something to take your mind off of it, like finding a hobby. Want more tips like this? Go to keepitfunohio.com for great ways to keep gambling fun. And with that, we head out on the Fifth Third Money Line. It is a Wednesday, and that means it is time to talk to our great friend, Browns legend Bernie Kosar, joining us on the Fifth Third Money Line. Bernie, I'm curious if you've had an experience like the one Baker had on Sunday, where in the first quarter, everything that could go wrong felt like it did, and then he didn't miss. And how does that happen in the middle of a game for a quarterback?
Well, good to be with you. good to be talking about this with a 5-2 record, and be able to actually make a joke about the commercial leading into this about the money line, and Cody Parker missing the extra point to make the Bengals the winner.
Oh, well.
Oh, yeah, it was all there.
All
right there for you, Bernie. That's true. That's true. It was all there for you.
But from Baker's perspective, to start out and asking me, like, to start out a game like 0 for 5, second week in a row, the first pass interception, for Baker to come and have that second half and have the confidence in himself when it didn't appear like he had that confidence and self-esteem is not only game-changing for the game to beat the Bengals and get us 5-2. I believe that's going to set up his confidence and the team's confidence around him, not only for this upcoming game against the Raiders, but through the season moving forward. That was more than just a win from getting the W in the Battle of Ohio. That did a lot for a young team, I believe, to take us to the next level.
Yeah, we feel that way too, Bernie. I guess has anything that what happens for a quarterback when all of a sudden it feels like it wasn't there and then it's all there? I mean, he was so hot and he missed one and it was a spike. What happens in your head in a game like that? Have you ever had anything like that happen to you?
Well, you get the feel. Yes, as you start going into the game, as the game starts materializing. I don't want to say, like, I don't believe that I've started a game with that much stress and then was able to turn it into that much euphoria by the end of the game. By that transition, that range of emotions that we went through as fans, there's no question Baker went through that as a player, and for him internally to have that confidence to pull out of it. And to get stronger with it was just impressive.
Bernie, we know that Baker, in his record-setting performance, 21 straight completions, he broke your record, which was 16 straight completions here, a franchise record with the Cleveland Browns. So you've obviously been in the zone. We all know that. And now, famously, we've heard Michael Jordan talk about, the rim looked like a big old bucket, what it was like for him when he was in the zone in some of his great games. Take us inside the mind of a quarterback when you're in the zone. Is it that the ball's going to go exactly where you want it to every time? Is it that the game slows down and it's almost like you're in their defensive huddle? What's being in the zone like for a quarterback?
When you get in that zone, when you get that feeling, and for the fans out there, who have been critical of all the quarterback play for the last month, not only just from Baker, but mainly for the other quarterbacks that we've played against. The weather has been so nice appearing, yet it's been incredibly windy. Sunday's game was probably the first game we've had in 5 weeks where the wind was minimal, and we had a light mist. And when you get into that zone and you have that feeling and the conditions are perfect to throw. The ball, it was a little slippery for the DBs. The Bengals were playing such press coverage that, Nathan, you hit it right on the head. You believe when you're in the zone, you could make any throw. And the 30 and 40-yard throws downfield that were really so precise to within really inches of perfection, that ability and confidence. And when you're able to hit a couple of those in a row, it absolutely snowballs on itself to the point where you feel like you could hit anything.
When you go back and you watch that final drive and you think about the fact that the Browns won 75 yards in 4 plays with Baker throwing 2 passes apiece to Donovan Peoples-Jones, a rookie, Hollywood Higgins, who we know he has that chemistry with, but 2 guys who were healthy and actives at the beginning of the season for multiple games. What does that tell you about just this team, this culture that Kevin Stefanski's building, that Chad O'Shea's building in the wide receiver room? What does it tell you about what's happening here in Cleveland?
Yeah, that confidence from all of the team and all the guys around is clearly evident and clearly important, not only to win the games, but as we're moving forward. And Nathan, we're talking about the start of the 2-minute drive. For young quarterbacks and for fans out there, what Baker did to start it was so beautiful that no question the 5 plays and 75 yards. But for young QBs out there and for young coaches, it's important when you start a 2-minute drive, what you do on that first play. It's so important to get a positive play, get the clock moving, keep the guys moving, get that to line of scrimmage. Baker did a masterful job versus some pressure to avoid that sack on the first play and find Donovan Peoples coming across the middle to get that 9 or 10 yards. That play could have been a sack. That's really stunts to neuters all 2-minute drives. So by getting that first play by Baker, and that was heroic personal effort by him to have the patience and the footwork to find that completion. And then have that confidence to immediately start. You do want to slow the clock down, so you do want to throw outside. And I was absolutely surprised that the Bengals were giving us those opportunities on the fades. But Baker didn't. There's been a lot of talk about how Baker reads coverages. He did an outstanding job of seeing that man press coverage, and the ability to throw fades outside is the perfect read. And when you're in that zone and you can make the perfect throw, Dan Marino used to always say, you can't beat a perfect throw, and Bake was making them.
He certainly was. Bernie, there was something that happened on the second to last play of that drive that I'm sure you took notice of as well, and that was Jarvis Landry getting Harrison Bryant to the line of scrimmage. Because if he doesn't, of course, it's a runoff. You're going to have 5 seconds to try to race the field goal unit out there to try to get a kick. Jarvis has done that before. You look at a stat sheet. You don't watch this game. You look at a stat sheet. You go, 50 yards receiving, couple of runs. He threw for 1. But you don't see the full picture of what he does. And I think the acquisition of Jarvis Landry and the leadership and the heady way that he plays the game, to me, it really is a big part of this turnaround of this team the last couple of years.
Multiple awesome points in there, Beau. For sure, Jarvis Landry, as a player, just his physical ability to play and make plays is fantastic. Now you add in his leadership in the offense and in the team. And for him to catch the rook, Harrison Bryant, who had a beautiful game, had the 2 scores, but for him to catch that at that moment shows even more value for that, and that's something us quarterbacks like. We're usually on top of that too. So to see that happen was obviously critical. And if it wouldn't have happened, Beau, and even for the listeners out there, it would have been interesting to see, because we spent so much time as players, quarterbacks, and offenses, how you handle that last 20 seconds of the end of the second quarter and the end of the fourth quarter is really important. So there's about 16 seconds to go when we threw that 16 to 20 seconds when we did that spike play. If it would have been an illegal formation and a 10-second runoff, you then now have less than 10 seconds to run your field goal team on, like you mentioned, Beau. So it's imperative that you're a well-coached team and you understand anytime there's less than probably about 14 seconds and it's not 4th down, the quarterback and the team needs to also be ready to, if that would have happened, it would have been a legal motion, that you don't run the field goal team on. The quarterback comes, waits, he's patient, and does a spike play. That's easier said than done in the heat of battle, because that's hardly ever practiced.
It is, and the Browns executed thanks in large part, as Beau pointed out there, Jarvis Landry, the tremendous wherewithal, like having an extra coach on the field. Bernie, you talked about that game having a positive boost. You have an opportunity now against a Raiders team that you likely will be in competition with for one of the wild card spots if you fail to win the AFC North. How big is it? And when you start coming through in those situations, you talk about the momentum. The Browns have come through in a lot of fourth quarter situations this year. Now, what does that build for the locker room, knowing that you take the Raiders down here, we're 6-2, and we get to go have a real bye week? Kevin Stefanski telling the guys in the locker room, you take care of business one more time for me. I'm going to reward you on this bye week.
Fantastic point, Nathan. You don't want to get ahead of yourself. Take it a day at a time. Today's Wednesday. The first and second down game plan's coming in today. Understand it. Learn it. Get ready for Sunday. Let's go 1-0 this week. I don't want to get ahead of myself either. But that being said, this is an excellent matchup. Even though the Raiders are an excellent, a better football team than they were, trying to get to consistently be a good or excellent team, but they've had spurts of excellent play this year, but not consistent. Yet from a Browns perspective, I really like the matchup for us this week. Defensively, they only have 3 turnovers. They've been struggling defensively, so our physical ability to run the ball. And then offensively, Carr's been playing really good, but they like to throw the ball deep, and our pass rush is not conducive for quarterbacks to consistently throw the ball deep. So, and then also coming from the West Coast to the East Coast for a 1 o'clock game, there's a lot of good factors now starting to build up from the Browns' perspective. Now you couple that with the confidence and belief that I believe we started building with ourselves last Sunday in the second half, and then especially from about 3:45 on till a little after 4 o'clock last Sunday afternoon. That confidence and that ability to make those plays, I still think is going to resonate and reside within our young team and help us grow and mature.
Bernie, I'll get you out of here on this one. I see these videos of you on the four-wheeler going through the creek. I've seen you in the snow. It feels like you have the most fun you can have. It really does. And I'm just curious your setup out there. I mean, what are we dealing with from a trail standpoint, and how much variation do you have?
Bo, we're going to get you out there so we could have
a
first-hand experiential account of it. But when I moved out there in the 90s, part of my therapy and relaxation is making trails through the woods. So I got about 10 miles of trails up and around hills and creeks. You're welcome anytime.
Wow. Well, I will take you up on that. That sounds like the most fun you can have, brother. I always get a kick out of it when I see it. It looks like you're having the most fun. I will definitely take you up on that. Great talking to you.
And we're superstitious, so we got a Browns victory. So go Browns on it.
Let's go.
That's exactly right.
I'll tag along.
Great talking to you, Bertie.
Awesome. God bless you. Go Browns.
Absolutely. Boy, the two of us out there with Bernie on 10 miles of trails through the woods and streams. Gibbe?
Hold on. We need Gibbe out there. Come on. This is
clearly.
He's a wilderman.
I've got the ATVs.
I thought Gibbe might try to roll out there on his zero turn. He loves that thing.
Zero turn.
Well,
save the zero turn for home. Don't you worry about
that.
The zero turn is good. I don't know if I'm going to get
about
another chance to do the zero turn.
It's a little moist.
It would actually need to dry out. Hey,
yeah.
Isn't that looks like so much fun. Every time I see him cascading through that creek, I'm like, that guy's having the best time ever.
The best time. And it's awesome to see. He emotes such great joy, which is good. Real quickly, you guys mentioned the rain and the zero turn. I have an unjoyous story that I'd like to share with you guys, which is such a bummer. Just like all this sod at the house looking beautiful, and some jamokes came and drove all over. You see, it's the new sod. You see that it's wet out. What's the
boy.
deal?
And from experience, and it's been a while, admittedly, but from experience, that's a pretty big price tag.
It's a big price tag, one. Number
sod.
two, I feel like I might have to put on my nice red shirt, get in a small claims court, and throw some weight around if you smell what the rock is cooking.
Well, and, of course, as Gibby can attest, you're out of the growing season now. So not only does it cost you financially, your grass is not coming up in the spring, boys.
Nope. Now you got to replant
I can imagine your
in the
anger.
spring. No good.
Yeah,
like Hardy
I
Nickerson,
can imagine your anger.
Furious and often angry.
Good job out of you. Reminder, all guests who appear on CBD do so via the Fifth Third Money Line, including the great Bernie Kosar. Fifth Third Bank, making Cleveland Browns daily a Fifth Third better. We will take a look at the Vegas Raiders coming up next. You're listening to CBD on 850 ESPN Cleveland. 21 years ago, Alex started out of a small garage in Lakewood. And to celebrate those humble beginnings in the garage, Alex having a mattress garage sale. It's the same high-quality mattress they always have, just even lower prices. Anything mattress-related, in fact, they're going to have you covered. Pillow top, memory foam, gel foam, all the sizes. They also have 0% financing available. And during the garage sale, you can get a Sierra Sleep Queen for just $3.99, a Kenilworth Queen pillow top for just $4.99, an Oakmont Queen double-sided pillow top $7.99. These are in stock. They're ready to deliver today. Plus more great deals on mattresses and, frankly, everything at Northeast Factory Direct, West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, Freeway Drive in Macedonia. The Clearance Center in Maple Heights are online at northeastfactorydirect.com. It is Raiders week. When I say... So the Raiders came to the Bay Area right as you are finishing high school?
That's right, yeah.
And they have been there. They had been there previously in the 70s, but then they were in Los Angeles for your entire upbringing until the very end, probably your senior year or your junior year. Yeah, and then they've been there since, and now to Las Vegas. When we had Lincoln Kennedy on, he was talking about how they finally feel like they have a home. Does that resonate?
Absolutely, because, yeah, you knew the L.A. Raiders, and then by the time they were back in Oakland, as you said, I was moving on. But it just, when you're a football team, and this is what he means, I think. When you're a football team and you're playing on a stadium where there's all of a sudden the infield of a baseball stadium,
yeah,
that's not okay anymore. That doesn't happen anymore in the NFL. That they were one of the few teams that dealt with that duality, and I think that's what he means. This is our home. This is our stadium. This is all about us. Period. We're not sharing this with anybody. This is our facility, and it's going to be permanent. And Vegas and the Raiders are a pretty darn good match. It works. It works.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only play, I mean, obviously L.A. would have been the home run, but Kroenke was never going to allow that because if he did, then he would have to fight with them in that town, and they had a better brand recognition in Los Angeles than the Rams did. So he was never going to allow that to happen. And it's interesting when you think about that, that Al Davis and all of the Maverick things that he was as an owner, it gave him tremendous disadvantages in the league from the standpoint of having to play at the Coliseum, then having to play at Oakland Alameda Coliseum in Oakland, and now finally having a place to call home. And they are one of those, through it all, probably because they were so good and such a cool team, when we were very young. Such a cool team when we were very young that for people our age, I still have a lot of friends who are Raiders fans from the time that I was young, because they were one of the cool teams, and they won those Super Bowls in the early '80s, and they had Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen, Howie Long, all of those guys kind of ran through there. But they've been a team without a country for a while.
They were synonymous with the rise of that West Coast quote unquote gangster rap. They were all Raiders gear, and it was cool. Like, the Raiders were cool.
Very much.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, very much they were, yeah.
I remember
and for a previous generation, they were
Fernandez.
too.
I love
they
that
did,
guy's
and
name.
Timmy Brown, they did.
That's a great player, yes. Yeah, of course.
Yes. Willie Galt,
uh-huh. They had a lot.
Yeah, they were fun. And they had such a renegade outfit from before with Stabler and Alzado and all those guys. Like, they had kind of all of those things. Yeah, and it's one of those. I think it's one of the very perfect uniforms in all of football.
Of course,
it is an A+ perfect uniform. Yep. There's nothing you change. They've looked the same forever.
Yep.
They're the only team that I can think of that just uses two colors only. I mean, that's it. So they don't even have a third as a shade of anything. It's two, and that's it. And they come in here with Gruden and Vegas and some hope. And we'll get into some of the breakdowns in terms of their offense, our defense. We'll get into all of that tomorrow when we do the matchup day. But just in terms of what they are and where they are now, very healthy financially for the first time in forever as an organization. And they've got some nice young pieces here. And Carr, and like I said to Lincoln, like, I'm not watching every Raiders game, but I was shocked at how well Carr is playing.
I mean, I'm going through the numbers as we get to meet this team. Derek Carr, 72% completions, 1,726 yards, quarterback rating of 113. I'm sorry, but those are elite numbers. 13 touchdowns, two interceptions.
Yeah, 2 picks. Yeah.
2. He's playing phenomenal football. And I mentioned, Waller, 40 catches, 343 and 3 scores. You got Hunter Renfrow, 21 for 283 and a touchdown. Ruggs, only 8 catches on the year in 4 games, but they've gone for 212 yards and a touchdown, 26.5 a completion. Brian Edwards, the other rookie, 20 yards a completion. Nelson Aguilar, remember him from the Eagles?
Oh, sure.
15 catches on 20 targets, 292 yards, 4 touchdowns. Nelson Aguilar, along with DK Metcalf, leads the NFL with 3 touchdown receptions of more than 20 yards or more. He has 8 catches. 8 of his 15 catches have gone for more than 15 yards. So all of a sudden, this is a team that underneath, they're going to just crush you. Waller, he's going to move the chains. 24 of his 40 catches have gone for first downs. You talk about Jacobs, 18 for $122. So those two are 58 catches, and then you get in those receivers, and boom, it is just shots down the field. And so for the Browns, this is a game. We've talked about some of the issues on the back end where you've given up some vertical passes. They're going to test you.
Oh, gosh.
They're going to test you. And they haven't given up a ton of pressure, and they've only allowed 11 sacks on the season. So it's a good line. They've done a good job. They're not a great running team. Jacobs, you mentioned this.
Which
carries
is interesting.
3.4 a pop for the season, for the year.
Yeah. Yeah, they're having a tough time getting him going. I mean, even his best game was the opener, and I think it took him 27 carries to get to the 80-some yards. I mean, they're just not – he's not having that same explosiveness through the hole, and they're not creating the type of holes that you saw last year for him when he was so good as a rookie. It's a good fit, Gruden there, and some of the players here. You think of like Jonathan Abram, and hopefully he's able to go because you want to see teams at their best.
Of course.
Hopefully he's able to go. Just some of the attitude of some of these players, I think it fits kind of who they are and who the Raiders are. And I think that in the end, boy, this is going to end up being once we get through COVID and all of that, this is going to be every NFL fan's road trip. A lot of them. It's going to be go to Vegas, watch your team play in Vegas. I mean, that's the gambling part was something that leagues did not want to have anything to do with. But once the NHL said we'll be first, they'll all follow. It's just there's too much money in the market. The entertainment aspect of it is too big, and it's so easy to get stadiums built. No state tax. There's just so many advantages of playing out there.
It's tremendous. It is. Now that we have gotten to a point in our sports lives where the scores have been embraced and that it is all it's fine. That's the biggest reason why teams weren't in Vegas. They thought it would be too easily manipulated. And now you've got it. And frankly, there should be a Vegas NBA team. There should be every team.
I think
should have a Vegas team. Every sport.
Vegas will be used. There are cities, historically, and you'd think of them whether they were St. Louis or Kansas City. There's others that were constantly the threat. A team, Florida, some of the Florida cities used to be used like this. Well, these teams are going to end up here. Sure. Vegas will be used as a threat for every franchise in the NBA and in Major League Baseball that can't get a stadium built. They'll just say, fine, we'll go to Vegas. And I think it'll happen. I think Nashville's another city like that, and both are entertainment cities. But I think both of those places, and especially Vegas. I think there's an NBA team in Vegas in the next 5 years. I do.
Yes.
I think they'll get one there. I think they will. Even over, holy hell! I'm in the middle of a thought, and I see Brown's Therapy with Gibby on a 4-wheeler. I mean, how do you top that? I mean, that is so great.
You can't. It's pure joy. It's what the world needs. It's what we all love to see. Yes.
Look at him on that. I mean, that's just beautiful. That is have you seen this, Gibby? It's unbelievable.
Gibby.
So good. So good.
Gibby.
This is a fun one. Do you have what do you think we're going to do uniform-wise? You think you wear the orange ones this week, the orange pants again? We've had a string of wearing the orange pants a lot.
I don't know. Thus far, we've only seen we saw the orange pants. We only seen the orange pants in the division, right? We only saw them against the Bengals, the 2 Bengals games. Is that right?
Didn't we wear them against Pittsburgh? Didn't we wear?
And Pittsburgh, right.
So we wore Browns pants at Pittsburgh. So you wore them at home against the Bengals, orange, and down there. Ravens, we wore white pants. Yeah. This is a great uniform matchup. This will be beautiful.
I don't want them to
it'll
be
be
in their
beautiful.
blacks, though. I want us to wear brown on top. I don't care what pants we wear, but we got to wear brown on top. I don't want them to wear their black uniforms. They look much tougher in the black.
They're too good.
They're too good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're too good. They're too good. It's interesting. You said one of the best uniforms of all sports. It is a drop when they go to white. That's pretty dramatic. The white top over the silver.
Yes.
Massive drop.
Massive drop.
Yes. It is.
Their whites actually.
Going to be a fun game.
The AFL days, I think, are better. The whites
with the silver numbers with the
black outline.
Pin.
Yeah.
Black outline.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should wear those as that should be their permanent away.
And they should go to the helmets too that I believe have the logo's more white than black in that old helmet.
The white Raider guy.
Yeah.
Both of those are wins though. I think you really hit it with the white helmet or the white jersey to go that way.
Yeah.
Going to be fun to break this one down. Going to be a beautiful looking game on Sunday as well. Lots more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Be part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the National Football League. Join the Brown season ticket member wait list today. The best chance at securing tickets for all home games in future seasons. Deposits start at just $100 per seat. Reserve your spot today by visiting clevelandbrowns.com. Good stuff there. No sports tonight. We've had about a run here of about 3 months where there's NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, something, and just a day with nothing.
I was bummed. I actually was kind of hoping that Bob Snell was going to get to go the distance and we would have had a Game 7.
A little bit of drama there.
Game 7 in baseball
got that done.
Great. Every pitch matters. Everybody's freaking out. If a guy looks a little bit off, he could get yanked in the middle of the first inning. Like, we're not messing around.
Yeah. Yeah, those are as fun, and unfortunately you don't get it, and so we're without. We're back to the NFL tomorrow, a little more than a week before the trade deadline. Who is your favorite? Who is your favorite Raider of all time?
Ooh, that's a good question.
By the way, this would have been opening week for the NBA.
Right.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right.
And they're talking about trying to have that thing up and running by Christmas, which seems crazy to me to do that.
I would start at Christmas Day. The NBA should just start on Christmas Day, period, anyways.
Agreed, but like if you're one of those two teams that played in the finals and you're 2 weeks removed from 100 days in Orlando, how excited are you to fire it back up?
Yeah, not. But they are saying they're going to – it sounds like Simmons – I was listening to Simmons' pod the other day, the Guess the Scores, and it said he thinks the NBA is going to start a lot sooner than people think it is.
So what that tells me then, because we had talked about, and not just from that, but we talked about that how much they were giving up in gate, like as Golden State as much as $5 million a game in gate. So if they're going to play in December and play earlier, they're basically acknowledging that they're going to do it without fans.
And because they want the 2022 season to be the 2021-2022 season, that overlap to get right back onto the normal schedule and be done. They don't want to be playing. So they're hoping to get this one might even be a truncated season that begins around Christmas time and then ends maybe a little later than normal so that they can then start the 2021 season back on track and finish, in June like they used to.
Isn't that an amazing reality?
Yeah.
That you're really planning for 2 seasons removed, that 2 seasons will be affected and you're trying to plan for 2 seasons from now.
Yeah.
Or 2 seasons from the one that just ended.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, but that's the reality. That's what he was talking about, and he's pretty plugged in with NBA stuff, so he felt pretty good about that. You asked my favorite Raider of all time.
Favorite Raider.
Throwing out the 97 season, which Jeff George led the NFL, 3,917 yards passing, 29 touchdowns, only 9 picks, was just a remarkable year. I'm probably going to go with Bo Jackson just because he was the coolest. He was such a stud.
He was the coolest. Yeah.
I loved Tim Brown. That was really my era growing up. Marcus Allen was the beginning of my fandom. And then in the Bay Area, though, Lyle Alzado was regarded as like a complete lunatic and loved, beloved.
They had so many great ones. I was on a plane once with Kenny, and he was as cool as you'd want him to be, as cool as you could be. And had the Snake. What a nickname, Kenny the Snake Stabler. Jack Tatum on those teams. They've had a lot of really cool players in their history, and be fun to get into the matchup. We will do that tomorrow on the program. Enjoy your first Friday, kids. Act accordingly. The next level is coming up next. Thanks for listening. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.